I'm Stephen Murray, and this is The Knoll, an online gathering place for the people of Oak Knoll Lutheran Church and a place to share our community stories. Lent is underway here at Oak Knoll, which means we're using the Is This the Feast liturgy. Some of our new members approached Pastor Jay wondering why the title of this liturgy is posed as a question. Pastor Jay, of course, could give an answer, but he decided to let the person who wrote the liturgy speak for himself. Joining me today is John Hermanson, a member of Oak Knoll Lutheran Church and the composer of Is This the Feast? Hi, John. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Stephen?
Good. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us again here.
For sure. Yeah, my pleasure.
Where are you calling from today, if I might ask?
I'm in Bozeman, Montana.
And you live there full time now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, still make it back to the cities every once in a while, but yeah, we're just kind of right off of the Montana State campus here in my old neighborhood where I grew up, and kind of house sitting for some good friends.
Cool.
So it's a good situation.
Well, the reason I wanted to talk to you today, we have a whole bunch of new members at Oak Knoll.
Great.
And they were asking Pastor Jay, why is this the Feast of Victory? ? But before we dive into that, the heavy, weightier inches, I wanted to take a moment to interview and introduce you. I know you appeared on the podcast back in August 2023, 2 years ago already, and we talked about your Isaiah service. But for some of those new members, I want to talk a little bit more about who you are and why you show up at Oak Knoll occasionally. Let's start there. What is your connection to Oak Knoll all the way from Bozeman?
Yeah. So I was in the cities for 30 some years. I went to St. Olaf College after high school, graduated from Bozeman and moved out there in 1989. And then I think it was around 2000 or so that I started playing out at Mount Calvary, which was where Pastor Paul was. So I did that for a couple of years. And then Pastor Paul took a call at Oak Knoll and invited me to come out there on Sunday mornings. And then I was there at Oak Knoll for probably, I need to figure it out, but I think it's about probably 20 years at least. Might be, 22 or something. Over that time was engaged in writing music. And a lot of it was just looking ahead to what was in the lectionary and what was going to be coming up on Sunday, and just seeing if that text would benefit from being set to music. That was a large part of what I did. I also just assisted in general with worship music and planning and stuff. I've been really happy to be able to revisit Oak Knoll when I come back into the cities, and hoping to be able to do that at some point later in the year as well this year.
So when you do show up and play your guitar, that's all your own original music?
For the most part, yeah. Every once in a while I'll play someone else's song or a hymn or something like that. I, over the years, have written quite a few pieces of music, and then I always enjoy the challenge of setting something to music that I haven't done before, and that's my main interest, is creating new music and playing that.
And you are a full-time musician, right?
Yeah, I've been in a number of different bands. I have a folk duo that was around for about 35 years or so. A friend that I went to high school here with. Yeah, we were called Story Hill. Played around quite a bit. And then I was in a couple other bands. I had a band called Alva Star that's still sort of, it's just kind of me in the studio having fun, doing what I like to do. And so I'm still kind of doing that. I probably have a record that I'm thinking about releasing with Alva Star it's called Babel, and it's a concept album that kind of delves into the Tower of Babel story and ties it into kind of the building of modern technology and our use of technology, and how technology is sort of transforming the world in a similar way, making us, giving us more powers that are sort of godlike, and the same sort of issues with like hubris of humanity and the back and forth there. But yeah, that Alva Star tends to kind of dive into those types of things. It's just kind of where I give myself complete freedom to kind of do whatever. So I've done a number of different things musically over the years to, it's a tough business to be in, especially if you have a family and you want to be around. In order to be around more, I started the music house and made music for film and TV and advertising, and had that going for about 15 years. And yeah, just kind of a lot of different things musically.
And I hear there was even an appearance on A Prairie Home Companion back in the day.
Yeah, we used to be on there quite a bit, and then we were on a couple of the cruises they have, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, really fun to be a part of that show and all those amazing musicians and actors and whatnot. Yeah.
So you wrote the Isaiah service that we sing on Wednesdays during Lent.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's a whole discussion that we've already had about that our listeners can check out.
One great thing, I don't know if this was happening back then, but Holden Village has ordered a bunch of copies because they're going to be doing it this summer as part of their program. So I'm really excited about that and honored to be kind of included in that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Could you speak more about your involvement with Holden Village and what that's produced for you?
Yeah. Well, I went there in January of 91 as a student at St. Olaf, part of the interim program there. And that was my first time out there. And then I didn't make it out until 2017 when I was invited to be the artist in residence there. And so 2017 and 2018, those summers I was out there, and was told that nothing was required of me. It was to be a time of rest if I wanted it to be that. And I took them up on that. And but even so, I mean, I think by design, that's kind of the leaders at the time are artists themselves and understood that kind of sabbatical or Sabbath activity kind of leads to more productivity ultimately. That was kind of one of the main things that came out of that was this Isaiah service that was largely inspired by the beauty there. And then it's sort of a delving into specific texts in Isaiah that were sort of resonant in all the speakers were talking about a lot of the stuff that I was drawing from. And so it was a really great community to be part of. And the Isaiah service kind of really came out of that. It's really awesome now that they're going to be officially including it in their, worship services. And so it's kind of come full circle, which is great.
That's fantastic. That is.
Well, it's just great that Oak Knoll has embraced it. And just over the years, it's really an honor to kind of come back into the community and hear the way that you guys are doing it now and how it's evolved and how, people seem to know it. And it's, when I remember when we first started doing it, it's a new liturgy. And so it takes a while for people to warm up to it. Yeah, really very rewarding to hear the way that Oak Knoll has begun to do it and continue to. Yeah.
So that brings us to the other one that we do. Is this the feast? Mm-hmm. What inspired that? What was the process in creating that one?
So that was the first liturgy that I was asked to do, and it took me just an enormous amount of time because I was so, I guess, aware of the responsibility of, really as a liturgist, what you're doing is you're putting words in people's mouths in a way, or, so suggesting, what if we sing this, which I don't take lightly. And I was doing it for there was a church that's no longer around, but called Mercy Seat in Northeast Minneapolis. That was kind of a spinoff of House of Mercy. And they spun off, as I understand it, largely because, and it was a friendly splitting, there was a camp of people, and they were largely, I think, American Baptists that went to House of Mercy. And then when they spun off Mercy Seat, it was to have more liturgy and be more liturgical in worship. But they had an interesting twist on it, and it was they basically had a brand new liturgy every month for some years. And so in order to do that, they looked into the musical community in Minneapolis, and they were able to find people that would write liturgies for a new liturgy every month. And it was, I think there were a handful of people that did 2 or 3, but largely they're all different musicians from the community, and they all had a very different take and approach to what liturgy could look like in a church setting. So I was really honored to be a part of that. As I was trying to figure out what kind of liturgy to make for these people, I realized that my own upbringing as a Lutheran was, to them, like my perspective and my way of worshiping, and having been brought up in the Lutheran Church, which is obviously very liturgical, that I had a lot to kind of offer. I thought about, what if I take the traditional Lutheran service and work with that. And so I basically was kind of using the text from, the this is the feast, the very familiar to Lutherans text. And I had set it to music and was pleased with how it was sounding and stuff. And as I was recording and working on new ideas, I accidentally said, "Is this the feast?" And I don't know why that is, but as I was singing it, it came out and I went to delete it. And then I thought, well, wait a second, is there something there? And as I thought more about it, I thought, well, yeah, this is worship. Is there a place in worship for? Well, I guess what strikes me about the text, and always did as a kid, I always kind of wondered where it was from in the Bible. It's not something that we normally encounter except in the liturgy, and then why is it that text, and those kinds of questions. And so I mean, it was almost like a question that I had myself, like what is this text really about? And when I discovered that, or made that mistake of asking the question instead of the statement, it resonated with me in a way that was helpful, because it was, one thing is the feast of victory doesn't always feel like a feast of victory, and so there's something about when we say, "Is this the feast of victory?" It's almost, you can put the emphasis on this. Is this the feast of victory, where Jesus is somehow victorious in this act that to us appears to be a failure as humans, a death on the cross. And yeah, I realized that there was sort of power in that question, and that it sort of highlighted that sort of difficult truth that we have to deal with as Christians, which is Jesus sort of failed on earth as a human movement. What it does, I guess, for me, is it creates an objectivity where you can look at it and say, there's something more going on here. And what we see as a failure, is actually seen as a victory in our faith, and what that means. And then the other thing I like about the question part is that it allowed me to, as I was writing the verses to the Gloria, it's sort of like a country song, where a country song will, the chorus is always the same, but it means something different as it progresses. They'll have a phrase that, resonates on the sort of like literal, simple level at first, and then you realize, oh, there's another way of, the next verse sets it up and makes it mean something else. It was like I guess a tool, or a way to ask more questions and tell the story of, I guess, the Passion story, and ask more questions from that story. You said, leave your nets behind you, broke bread and drank wine with us. You promised a kingdom. You died on a cold cross. It's sort of the people saying, what's going on here? You promised these things, and we got these things. Is this the feast of victory? Mm-hmm. So it's sort of I guess an exploration of our own, comfort level or discomfort with the story that's central to our faith.
In like you were alluding to earlier, in the very immediate sense, Jesus came and died, and they were saying, "Is this it?" But now we have a scope of history and much more understanding, but also knowing that we're on Earth and it's never going to be perfect here.
Right. There was a lot of, as I thought about introducing it as a question as opposed to a statement, I was pretty concerned about it coming off as, am I watering down the message? Am I making it less powerful? Am I introducing doubt that doesn't need to be introduced? And really, after doing it over and over, even for me, it started to engage my faith and my thinking, and sort of, I mean, it sort of has caused me to think more and more about all of the things that we do in worship. And I feel like it's been a good way to be more engaged in my faith. And I have talked to a number of people where that seems to be the case as well. I'm happy for that.
Did you get any pushback from people or clergy about asking that question?
Yeah, not really. Most seem to understand, and sort of, yeah, there was actually from clergy seemed to be the most interested in it and embraced it pretty fully. I think, and at my own church here, we go back and forth between using it, and then we do, like, we just got done doing "This is the feast," and then we switched in Lent to "Is this the feast?" And so it's not a question of replacing the old liturgy with something better. it's actually sort of engaging the old liturgy deeper, I guess, is how I see it.
It's a dialogue.
Yeah, or it allows for, I mean, I should say that questions are something that I use in all of my writing. Like, it allows you to kind of say things without stating them confidently and then having to back them up. You can say a question and then you have to try to answer it. Maybe I was doing it somewhat before, but I became aware that I was doing it from writing this liturgy and have since used that quite often. There's another song that we've done at Oak Knoll quite often, which is Could It Be, which is also full of questions. And then there's quite a lot of my stuff is questions. Part of it might be like me confronting that responsibility of here I am providing words for people to sing. And it sort of feels like you can kind of say more or take more risks and be more bold when you ask it as a question as opposed to a statement. It's just a way of working that I've really begun to embrace, but it kind of started with Is This the Feast?
Well, John, thank you so much for asking questions, having us ask questions on Sunday morning and beyond, and being here today answering my questions. Anything else besides your album Babel that you're working on, anything else coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah, quite a lot. So this summer I'm going to be up at Holden leading worship the week before July 4th, and really looking forward to that. But then the rest of the time, much of it I'll be up at Christicon as artist in residence up there, and I'm really excited about beginning work on a Christicon Vespers or a service that's specifically for that community, and which has always meant a lot to me. And then I'm in the process of starting up with there's a good friend and leader of worship at Hope Lutheran, where I am a member in town here, and we are starting an institute, a sort of a center for liturgy and arts, using my own experience as a model, bring in other artists, visual artists, dancers, musicians, all kinds of people that are interested in working, creating things for use in the church. And so we're going to be bringing people in from all over, and we've already sort of started sponsoring events and creating. Right now we're going around to all the different churches like Episcopalian and Presbyterian, Lutheran, and every Sunday night during Lent we're going around and doing a kind of an Isaiah meditation that's a cross between a service and a performance, but more of a meditative experience. So doing things like that, where we're reaching out to the larger community, but also serving Hope Lutheran. And then I'll continue to create music for worship. Yeah, so I'm very excited to be a part of that and having that kind of get off the ground, which is happening as we speak. So
you're a very busy man.
Yeah, you got to figure out a name for it. Is the main goal. Otherwise, it would be public by now. But
well, congratulations on the artist in residence. Congratulations on all those endeavors. We're very lucky to have ties to you. We're even more lucky when you actually have time to be with us. We cherish that time.
I do too. I really love coming back to Oak Knoll, and very happy that you're willing to have me. So
anytime. You're always welcome. And we look forward to that next day when you're with us.
Great. Me too.
Thanks again for being here. Have a good day.
Yep. You too, Stephen.
The Knoll is a production of Oak Knoll Lutheran Church in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Music performed by Matt Cerar and produced by me, Stephen Murray. If you would like to learn more about Oak Knoll Lutheran Church, please visit us on the web at oklutheran.org or check out the live stream of our Sunday worship on YouTube every week at 9:30 Central. If you would like to share your story as part of the Knoll podcast, you can find information on how to get involved on our website. Thanks for listening, and God bless.